Hey, Mija, this is Diana,
And I'm Ana Rosa, and this is Mija, Let Me Tell You.
a space for growing, healing, and figuring life out as first-generation Mexican immigrants.
Hola, welcome back to Mija, Let Me Tell You. Before we get started, we wanted to give a shout out to the 3 guests we've had on the Mija podcast. We are forever grateful for them to have made time out of their day to come and join our podcast and share their stories. Like we've mentioned before, their stories are so powerful and just give us so much more insight into the human experience and the immigrant experience.
So we're going to give a shout out to Monica Torres, Allison Wu, and Rosy Nunez for joining us these past couple of weeks. I mean, this 3 weeks. So thank you for being part of the Experiencia de Mija, Let Me Tell You podcast for us. We feel so blessed. It's a pleasure for us to have these special guests join this journey with us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we can't wait to share more experiences and more stories. So again, if you want to share your story, feel free to contact us. And like we said, we'd love to give you a platform to share your story and share your experience because there is a lot of power in that. And interestingly enough, sin querer queriendo, mi comadre Diana and I are wearing the same sweater or similar sweater. So we thought it was funny, that sister telepathy in a way. But yeah, so today's topic is about remembering our loved ones that we've lost. Recently, we celebrated Die De Los Muertos, which is a celebration in the Mexican culture where we kind of lay out an altar and we fill it with pictures of our loved ones that we've lost and some of their favorite foods or things that remind us of them. And it was just it inspired us to maybe make a episode where we can share our stories about our loved ones that we've lost.
Part of that tradition of the Dia de los Muertos is, everybody has seen at least Coco once. In every state of Mexico, we celebrate differently. It has different variations, but the idea behind the celebration is that you keep remembering your loved ones, and by doing so, by keeping their memory alive, it brings the community together, your family together. You keep them in your heart, and you take with you all the cherished memories.
Yeah. Yes.
Of your time with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the concept of going through your house and finding items that remind you of them, and like it reminds you of a story they might have shared or an experience they had with you, and it kind of brings those memories up for you, and it's just a time of remembrance and
healing.
Healing.
It definitely is healing because if you're of the Catholic, I'm gonna share a tradition that when my grandfather passed away, I had the opportunity to witness in Los Guerreros, and I hadn't witnessed it before to the extent that I did that time. But it's kind of a healing moment because when a person first passes away in Mexico, they have the wake right in that person's home, in la casa de la persona, and their casket is there, and people are coming to their home, and there's a lot of people from the community that come together. Ahí se ve la unidad de la comunidad, and the people that have lost the loved one, they kind of host this space for them to come and grieve, because remember, a small community means that everybody knew each other. So this passing away of this special loved one is not only the family is feeling that way, the loss, but also the whole community feels the loss. And then there's opportunity for the community to talk about this person, to share memories about this person in the wake. And then the next day, that's when the burial happens. So very different than here. In Los Guerreros, we don't have a funeral home. I believe in San Martin, there's a place, but not in Los Guerreros. We don't have a funeral home. And so what people do, they rent a lot of chairs. They have the people sit outside of the home. They provide canelita, café, pan dulce, while the people are coming, and they come in different different, they don't all come at the same time. They're kind of flowing. They stay, they talk, they give you their sentiments about the loved one. You pray, and everybody's just there being a unified group in support for the family's loved one. And so when my grandfather passed away, mi papa Jose, I had the opportunity to stay after, because once they bury the loved one, now it starts the novenario, and that's 9 days of prayer after the person has been buried. And there's a whole every day at a certain time, people get together and they pray the rosario, and the whole family coordinates themselves to kind of give them a little something at the end of the rosario as a thank you for coming and being part of that experience. So it's like a ritual that people take into consideration. So that's like this whole ritual happens when the loved one passes away. It's like so fresh and new, and I always feel that rosario, even though it's a religious connection, it also helps during that time where the family is processing the passing of that loved one. After the 9 days were done of the prayer, the last day, it's a big day, because when the casket gets taken, to get buried, and the misa and todo, they kind of señalar where the casket was, and that's where they build a cross of flowers. And around it, they put velas and everything. And in those 9 days, they keep switching the velas and putting new flowers and setting up the altar where the people pray to the loved one. And then the last day is a big day, and the whole community comes and they pick up La Cruz, right? And I never encountered this in the United States until I lived this with my grandma, because I was able to stay there with my grandma when this happened, when my papa Jose passed away. And there's these ladies, or group of ladies in Los Guerrero, that sing songs as they're picking up parts of La Cruz. And they have in the middle of the cross, there's a red flower signifying like the heart. And then the streams of the cross, they're like parts of the body, the head, the arms and stuff. And so for each, there's prayer between each part of the cross that's being picked up, and it's put in a little box. And once the cross has been picked up, that little box is buried in a special place where no one's gonna step on it. And so it's like it's like bringing conclusion to the 9 days. So at the beginning, before the 9 days starts, you bury your loved one. After the 9 days, you bury the cross that was there. And it's done in very beautiful, very emotional ways. I remember hearing these songs, and you cannot help crying. It's just the way these ladies sing it, it's like with deep sentiment. And there's people there, witnessing the lifting of the cross, because they have some ashes there and the cross, and all of that is placed in the box and is buried. So it's like a second burial, but this time around it's of a different, and those 9 days helped heal a little bit with the prayer and the people there. But then for me, the new twist, if you can say, is the burial of the cross. So I would be interested to know, what significance, or where this significance began, and maybe doing a little more research would be helpful as is why it's done. I think if anyone en Los Guerrero que nos esté viendo, que nos puede explicar un poquito más de cómo es esta tradición y por qué se hace esta tradición. Sería bueno tener alguien que conozca, so who can share with us, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, the meaning of it. And I know something I wanted to share too that I experienced in Mexico was that when you are, with the wake, when the body's present and people are coming, people are also bringing food to the mourning family. because they know, you don't have the headspace to be making meals. And I thought that was very beautiful that the town comes together and brings meals for the family. And that was the first time I experienced it too. And it just shows that, like you said, when you lose a community member, the whole community comes together to support the family.
They also bring candles, and those candles are going to be helpful for the 9 days and for the rest of the ritual that takes place. So the whole community participates. They already know this is a tradition that is followed in the town. And so when somebody else has passed away, you do the same for them. So it's a communal thing. They come to you when you need it, and you go to them when you're in need of it.
And people send also what we call coronas, so like these big flower arrangements, or like circular ring like flower arrangements, and sometimes they'll have like a little ribbon with the name of the family that has sent it to the family. And at the end, when the person's about to be buried in the cemetery, they take all those flowers and they bury the family member with the flowers.
And those coronas are kind of, they look like easels in a way, an easel, but not the third leg of the easel. So you'll see like a little triangle, the corona in the circle, and they put them against the wall outside of the person who's passed away home, or wherever the wake is happening. And so this is another way, because there's people here in the United States who are not able to accompany the family over there. And even people from our hometown, they buy these coronas, and it's a way of sending flowers, but they're in a different shape than just like a little flower arrangement. They're like big and elaborate, and like you said, they have little ribbons with dedication, from La Familia Cepeda Cepeda, or Te Queremos Mucho. It depends what their sentiment was, either the name of the family or like something something nice that they want to say to the person or the family. Estamos con ustedes, los acompañamos. And it just feels so nice to have those community members around you when you feel like you lost a loved one, you lost a piece of your heart. But then there's the community that comes through and helps. And in El Dia de los Muertos, there's another celebration that brings the community together. And a lot of people in Los Guerreros build altars in remembrance of their loved ones. So it also brings the community together en el Día de los Muertos, cuando van a pedir calabaza, and it's another way to remember the ones that passed away through el Día de los Muertos celebration. And Día de los Muertos, I feel, is like another opportunity where you remember the loved ones, but you remember them in not as painfully as maybe the first year you might remember them painfully because it's the first year of their passing. But throughout the years, it helps you kind of keep the memory of the loved one alive at the same time that you're celebrating the wonderful things that they brought to this world. And so that's the healing that happens, right? I have my loved ones, but I still remember them here. And the magical belief, right, that they're gonna come and visit us, and it's like refreshing to know that not only it's us remembering them, but that they also remember us through even though they have passed away, right, that they're coming back to visit their loved ones. And I feel that's a healing component power to that process.
Yes. No, I think you said it beautifully, Coma. It is that remembrance that they'll return, and you lay out a whole meal set up for them with their favorite foods and some of their favorite things, and you hope that when they do come, they can feast on their favorite, have another meal with you. So very, very beautiful. In Mexico, as much as we don't like to talk about dying, we do have this relationship where we do our best to kind of, what's the word, like you said, we try to process it in our own way through, like you said, like the wake at someone's home, and a rosario for 9 days after. And then in Dia de los Muertos, it's our way of processing death and still honoring those that have passed, right? I've never been in Mexico for Dia de los Muertos or pedir calabaza. I know you had. If you want to share a little bit of that experience for you.
Sí. So this is gonna bring us to the remembrance of mi Mama Chuy. So we already talked about mi Papa Jose. Mi Papa Jose, but we'll talk a little bit further of him. But we'll start with mi Mama Chuy. So we grew up. If you've heard our podcast, we grew up with our grandparents. So our grandparents were like our second parents. When my dad would come to the United States and my mom would be over there, and mi Mama Chuy would make little treats. Over there, they don't. It's not like you give candy. You could give candy, but over there in Mexico, they make calabaza mielada. And what they do is they harvest calabazas, pumpkins, and they put piloncillo, which is like the equivalent of like brown sugar, I guess, if I had to equate it. And it's a really sweet treat. And instead of, you would say, if you have a group of niños, who would go with their costal and they would go in front of a person's house and they would lay the costal. And I always remember there was a fight of who was going to be el muertito because there was a person who would lay there because usually el muertito didn't get first dibs on whatever they're giving. Oh. So it was like, no, yo no quiero ser el muertito. They would fight. Or some would be like, yo quiero ser, depends who you were with. And mi Mama Chuy would always make, she had a little in her home, she had a little hallway. And wherever you entered, it would echo. And, my Mama Chuy would come through the hallway and she would have little bolsitas. She sometimes did calabaza, but she also did como duritos and palomitas, and that was her treat, right? So the people will go around, certain homes and pedir calabaza, right? In the past, it was calabaza, but you could do other things too. And so when the little muertito or the kid lays down, the rest of the kids pray this rosary, and then at the end they get their treat. And they would go around that little by little with time. The idea that there were started kids with costumes, right? The Halloween costumes, which is not the same as pedir calabaza. It's very different things, but you can see the influence of Halloween sneaking in our little hometown. But originally it's pedir calabaza, ir certain altares throughout the town, but also back in the day was certain homes. I don't know if that's what's happening now, but I remember back in the day the kids would come around, bring their costalito, and then they would do their whole ritual.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to have those traditions, and like you said, part of that American influence is creeping in a little bit, but still maintaining the altares and pidiendo calabaza. I think I recently saw someone post on Facebook that they had someone laying on I don't know if it was costal, maybe a blanket or algo así.
Back in the day it was costal. We couldn't afford more, but costal did the job.
Yeah, un colchón or something, yeah. So it was really nice to see that, yeah. And I don't know if we want to share a little bit more about, since we've been talking about mi Mama Chuy, mi Papa Jose, some of our cherished memories. Like I've said, for me, cuando íbamos a Mexico, my grandma nos invitaba a almorzar and she'd be like, vénganse, voy a hacer almuerzo. And for me, it was always what her dish for me is carne con chile, con frijoles. Y para mi Papa Jose, su platillo for me is una taza de café. Because mi Mama Chuy tenía, the mesa, and she had a cup with metal spoons, and nos reuníamos and we would just be together with tortillas recién hechas and stuff, and it was just beautiful memories. How about you?
Yeah. So I remember Papa Jose, things that I recall from my Papa Jose were los halls. He was a man who quit smoking on halls. So he replaced his addiction of cigarettes by putting it in a hall whenever he felt the need or anxiety or whatever that he felt. See, and sometimes when we were little, he would tell me, oh, mija, ve, cómprame unos halls. So he would give me money and I would go buy halls for him. Another thing that I remember about him is he's hombre fuerte, like they're like type of vitaminas
Yeah.
de hombre fuerte. He would always have them on top of his fridge. He would always, drink those. And then the third thing I remember about him is he sometimes, when we were little, he would have like leche calientita, and he would put tortilla recién torteada inside of his milk, like a little sopita de lechita con tortilla bien calientita. Y siempre se sentaba allá abajo del tejabán que tenían ahí, and he would be eating that. And I remember I started like, oh, I wonder what this is, like I wonder what is curiosity of that. And mi Papa Jose was a really hardworking man, and he would go to work, or he would hire his people to help him with his siembra and stuff like that. So he was a very entrepreneurial spirit, and a lot of people in Los Guerreros are entrepreneurial because se dedican a la siembra. Entonces das como tu propio negocio, tú estás invirtiendo allí, y al último sacas tu siembra. And he was just a hard-working man. I just remember mi Papa Jose.
Yes, and another thing I remember about him too was that he would whistle. He loved to whistle, and like the community would recognize him, and they would say, oh, like Jose pasó, aquí estaba, he was whistling. And when he did pass, they're like, yeah, like we miss seeing him pass by our street whistling, because he would walk fast and he would whistle, because he had places to be at. So I remember that was another thing, like he was always very cheerful in that sense, that he would whistle. And also he like loved his dogs too. He always had dogs. My grandparents always had dogs there, and like I remember the ones I remember the most are like Lobo and Chocolate. There were like a chocolate lab and like a yellow lab, and he loved them very much and made sure that they were well taken care of. And so it was just really a nice memory to have,
Yes. Mama Chuy, she was so caring for us, and I remember her always, making food, yummy, delicious food. I remember her chile, her salsa. I told my Mama Chuy, like, esta salsa is deliciosa, and she would make it all the time. Sus frijolitos, su huevito que le gustaba que chillara el aceite ahí cuando la estrellaban, le encantaba que chillara el aceite, que el huevito, que en el aceite bien calientito y que hiciera ese sonido. Y nunca se me va a olvidar su casa de ellos. Entrando en su casa, su concepto de su casa era abierta, se puede decir. Donde tú entrabas era un pasillo y podías ver hasta atrás, ¿verdad? Porque tenían abierto una mallita y tú podías ver hasta su corral. I remember videos of us being there and she hosting us over the years as we went back to Mexico, and desde su casa se oían los tacos de con Olivia, y and it was a hub for our family.
Yeah. And lo que recuerdo también is for Christmas, she had a little Christmas tree, and she would always set it up for Christmas, and she had like a lot of just little random ornaments that I think she had collected over the years. And like is something that when I remember like her house during Christmas, is ese arbolito with all the little ornaments, and she would always decorate the best she could for the Christmas,
Sí, definitely. And she was a woman of faith, and she always rezaba. And I remember she had a Bible where she wrote important dates. I remember her she's reading the Bible, and then tenía fechas importantes como cuando falleció cierta persona, and things like that she would record keep, And, she was a very hardworking woman. She had many kids. So
she had a lot of kids, yeah.
She kept herself busy at home with that, and until the end. My grandma was always very caring, and we will always remember Mama Chuy like that.
Yeah, un gran corazón. And like you said, very dadivosa too. Like she would share the little or a lot that she had, and always made you feel welcome in her house. And even recently, before her passing, because she ended up moving here to the U.S., and we got to see her a little more often. And something that I'll always remember in Mama Chuy is that she would always give me a little nalgadita. Yeah, she would give me a little spank and be like, "Ay, mija," like would just welcome me like that. Or when I was saying goodbye, and one of those things that I miss most from her. It's just the little things where it's tough when they're not here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just like those grandparents, we had the privilege. We feel so privileged and blessed to have met, our
Mm-hmm.
grandparents from both sides,
Mm-hmm.
and to have convivir con ellos when we returned to Mexico after leaving. And then my mother's side,
Mm-hmm.
mi Mama Gracia and mi Papa Toño.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Gracia was always an early riser. I
Mm-hmm.
will never. She was also a hardworking woman.
Mm-hmm.
She would always tortear. Even when she came here to the United States,
Yeah.
it's funny because she would say like she didn't like the tortillas de paquete. She had to have her maseca
Mm-hmm.
and do her tortillas. And she would wake up bien temprano, and she would be, sometimes washing dishes and just being mobile. Um, in her home. Her home was also welcoming. En la noche la
Mm-hmm.
canelita.
It was a
Um,
gathering space for everyone también.
yeah.
Yeah, we would get together outside her house and just set up sillas, set up chairs outside, and whenever like all the family members in diciembre were there, we would just sit around and just talk.
Yeah. Ahí era un gathering place. And there's a banquita, and many of us who were over there in noviando, we would use that banquita to platicar,
Yeah.
and it was just a beautiful, her kitchen with the jarritos en forma
Mm-hmm.
de arcoíris. Mi Papa Toño también a wonderful, hardworking man.
Mm-hmm.
Travieso, me gustaba que tenía sentido del humor, and he was the grandfather who came to the United States as a bracero in the bracero program. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that in another episode for sure. And yeah, Papa Toño always smiling and always wanting to keep busy too. He had a green thumb, and I remember my mom would sometimes take him when he lived here. My mom would sometimes take him to some of the houses she worked at, and he would help with the landscaping or the gardens and that they had. And going back to también mi mamá en Gracia, another thing I remember is like um, her gorditas. She would make some really good gorditas, and it's one of those dishes that I wish I could have one more time. Because it was just one of my favorite things in the world, and everyone, I think the neighbors too, really enjoyed having those gorditas because she just made it in such a way, I don't know, that you couldn't just have one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Y
Mm-hmm.
together, ellos siempre andaban juntos. And
Mm-hmm.
mi Papa Toño, like Ana said, had a green thumb. So había un punto donde ellos tenían una huerta. And they would go and sell their calabacitas a San Martín y hacían la
Mm-hmm.
luchita en sacar adelante pues su familia. Creciendo esa huerta y sembraban caña
Mm-hmm.
y otra vez ese espíritu, ¿verdad? Entrepreneurship, ¿verdad? De ese espíritu de tener tu propio negocio, porque es lo que se trabaja la tierra allá en México.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him peeling la caña and giving us little pieces of
Yeah.
caña to us, o cuando sembraban como guasanas o garbanzo, eran frescos, he would like cut the robas de garbanzo, and we would be sit in those gathering
Mm-hmm.
spaces y desguasanar, o sea, like take off the pieces of the
One by
garbanzo,
one.
but one, so it took time, but it was a place where you could gather, just like we were talking with Allison, like, when you do gathering spaces and cooking and it brings you together. Well, this is prepping for the guasanas to be cooked. It took time, but you were there, like, platicando, haciendo historias. Algo que my grandpa would also do is share a lot of his stories. And I feel like I have a recording of my Papa Toño when I had a project due for UCSB about the Bracero program. I decided to interview him. My mom helped me because she was going to Mexico, so I gave her the recording and I sent her the questions. And I'm like, Ma, esto va. This is how you turn it on, and just ask the questions, and you can hear mi Mamá Gracias voice in the background, and and laughter, and I cherish that piece. It's very important.
Yeah, no, you're right. Those stories he would always share, and I don't know. He was always a very happy guy too, like bien alegre. Even towards the end of his life, like he would like to listen to music too, and I don't have. There's the thing about my Mama Gracia too is that she didn't like people taking pictures of her, so there's not a lot of pictures we have with her. But I remember I have one picture with both of me, Mama Gracia and mi Papa Toño, and I feel very lucky that I have. It's a little blurry picture, but it's I feel lucky that my Mama Gracia allowed me to take a picture with her because I think it was just she was also very shy. So I feel lucky to have that as a little keepsake for myself. And something I also remember about them is Los Días de Campo.
Oh,
remember?
yeah. Yes.
And the thing, so it basically was that we'd gather the whole family and in December, because that's when most everyone was together, and we'd set one day and we would go to El Potrero, most likely like where my Papa Toño sembraba, right? And, we would all kind of like a potluck. Some people would bring like las tortillas. Other people would bring like carne para asar, frijoles, or even just like tacos de frijoles. Paseados is what we call them.
The most delicious meal in the world.
And we would just hang out and we would just spend the whole day, no phones, nothing, no service, just being out there with family. And we'd take chairs and we'd just talk and share memories and stories, and we'd go for a walk. It was just a beautiful, beautiful time to share with everyone.
Yes, those were beautiful moments, and the whole family came together. Those who traveled to Mexico or those who were there, it was just like reconnecting. And so they were the heart of that in the coordinating. When are we gonna go to Dia de Campo? Cuando se acaba la fiesta? Because we usually went like sometimes we went when the fiesta was going on or afterwards. But definitely they were giving hearts, both of them, and both sides of our grandparents were just very giving.
Yeah. They left that for us, that legado, I guess that legacy of just being, I don't know, my mom has shared it too in her interview that just being givers and sharing what you have was definitely something that was instilled in us.
And then another member of we'll start with mi comadriana. So mi comadriana was always filled with laughter. She was also a very giving person. And I remember I have something of her that I will never lose. When I was younger, I wanted a piercing in my ear. So I was like, I want a piercing. Who could do it? She's like, I'll do it. And I was like, okay. And so I have a piercing that she actually did on me.
Like a cartilage piercing, yeah?
No, it was just like a little.
Oh.
Okay, I have a piercing here on top of my ear that she did, and she's just like, "Bring me some eyes, and let's just go for it." And pow! Like before you know, she did it. She was así de valiente because she was emprendedora too. She would sell stuff.
Yeah.
She would be like very helpful and giving person. She would sell things to help her family. With because financially over there in Mexico is harder. So a lot of the people sell things out of their house, and she would sell colchas. I remember one time going to Guadalajara to surtirse, and she knew the ropes, and she knew the people, and people entrusted her. She was that trusting person.
Yeah, she helped take care of my grandparents a lot in Mexico too. And yeah, something I remember about mi Nina Adriana was that we would be sitting in the living room in mi Mama Gracia's house and just chilling, and she'd come in and she would lit up the whole room and be like, why are we all so sad? Like, life's worth living, and life's so, like, you should be happy. Like, she siempre llegaba and decía, like, ¿por qué tan tristes? Hay que ser felices. And I remember her being just that kind of sunshine, a ray of sunshine,
So my son, just a backstory, my son is named Adrian. And so for me, it was really important because she had daughters, and she didn't get to have a son. And so for me, in her honor, I named my son Adrian, kind of after Adriana, but Adrian, the male version of the name, kind of in her honor, because I really respected her, and she was a hardworking woman. And, you know, we missed her very much. She died very young, and she's the daughter of Mama Gracia Papa Toño, and she died very young. So by naming my son Adrian, I wanted to honor her in that way.
Yeah, that's very special, Coma. Yeah, because she did, you're right, she did pass away very young, and we wish we had more time with her. But she was, you're right, like a very hardworking individual, and just very alegre. Just I was like, her and alegría is something that I associate with her, is alegría and just having a positive attitude always, you know.
And yeah, that was, she was just a giving person. And a lot of people, I learned throughout the years, they share, oh yeah, Adriana venía porque venía de cobrar or whatever her routine was every day. Y nos sentábamos aquí afuera a platicar con un chocomil o algo. Actually, the person who lives in front of us in Mexico, they were really close friends. And so she shares, you know, that she would come by, and, you know, they were like, you know, they were supporting each other.
And then, yeah, for my Nino Feyo, he's the uncle that passed away when I was in college, when I was at UCLA. And that was a really hard time for me, like I've mentioned, just being away from family. But he was also a very kind soul. He also very giving, and would share the little or the lot he had. Always also a very good sense of humor. Yes. And he was always just happy to help when needed. I remember they lived in Santa Ynez, and we would gather in his house and just have a lot, like family gatherings. And I remember one time me Papa Jose and my Mama Chuy were there as well, and it was just a positive energy that flowed from him.
Yeah, so he was the first brother to come to the United States. So he had it tough when he left Mexico to look for a better future here, and so they settled in Santa Ynez, and that was a really rough loss for our family. And Manuel got to meet him. He had the privilege to got to meet him, and he remembers, man, your uncle was so cool. You know, like you could have real conversations with him, and you know, Manuel and I sometimes would sit and talk. And one time he and mi Nina Cele, they helped me when I was little, when I was not doing too well. They took me to the hospital, and they helped my parents out too. And so when my dad got sick, también, you know, he was one of the brothers to come and help. So he was always very helpful and very loving and very, I don't know, respect. I respected me Tío Feyo a lot, and I still do. This past Dia de los Muertos, you know, we always like to visit. He's buried here in Los Olivos, and so we always take, you know, every so often we go and visit him, and we take him flowers, or we just sit with him. And this Dia de los Muertos, we took our kids, we took our sillas, and we just sat there. And I like when Alia was born, I went in to introduce her to him by that, just going there and like, tío, aquí está Alia, ella es mi primera hija. And then when Adrencito was born, también lo llevé, I feel like even though he's passed, like we still remember him, and it's just very special for Manuel and myself. También tenemos a mi tío Chepe, en paz descanse también, del lado con mi mamá Chuy y papá José, hermano de mi papá. Recuerdo de él sus visitas con mi mamá Chuy. Él era muy atento con mi mamá Chuy, mi papá José. Él era uno de los hijos que estaba allá en México, y
les ayudaba mucho.
Le decían Chepe, pero se llamaba José, ¿verdad? Y también me acuerdo que él manejaba su van, y también era el encargado de cuidar cierto tiempo la bola ahí, a subir agua para el pueblo. Y también mi papá José en algún punto se involucró con la política y eso de los guerreros. Y mi tío Chepe se dedicaba en un tiempo a subir agua. Yo me acuerdo que a veces estaban visitando a mi mamá Chuy y mi papá José allí cuando íbamos nosotros en diciembre y decía, oh, ahorita vengo, es que estoy subiendo agua y a la bola y luego se iba y él con su bastoncito y todo, pero él hacía la lucha en lo que él podía.
Muy trabajador, mi tío Chepe, que en paz descanse también, y was always like wanting to help others, and always had was always really hardworking, like you mentioned, and we would go and visit him when we would be in Mexico, and we just sit in his living room and just talk about all the happenings that were happening in El Pueblo, you know, and just it was so nice to just catch up with him and see him when we would visit.
Yeah, I remember to Chepe. He came to the United States as well. So later in his life, he lived in Mexico, but he also came to the United States, and he was one of the Trailblazer brothers. That's why I name him the Trailblazer brothers, who opened pathways too. I'm not sure what time he came, but he was one of the brothers who came to live here. And yeah, we remember him. I have pictures of him with the family and his family and sus hijas y su hijo, and you know, very memorable memories with mi tío Chepe. Y siempre me voy a acordar de él también, and how respectful he was. You know, he was always calling us mijas. You too, like mija. And so, you know, the podcast has a lot of history with mijas, and it all involves our family members alive and those who had left us already.
Yeah, no, he definitely holds a special place in our hearts as well. And I feel like we have memories or like movies too when we were younger, and we would spend time in La Casa de Mama Chuy for Christmas, and I remember like that one time he had tamales, and his daughters were really young, and I mean his son was young, and you look back and you're like, wow, like those were just simpler like times where we could be together, and you know, all the family members were there. So definitely this time of year really makes us reflect and just cherish the memories we have with them.
Most definitely. And we also, you know, part of Dia de los Muertos celebration is that we also honor los angelitos, even our pets. Okay, so our angelitos are those who were not born or were born and they passed away really at a, you know, young gestational age, or they were born and they just passed away as they were a few months old. So in the family, there's been a lot of angelitos, so, you know, they have passed away, and so we honor. We also we didn't get to convivir con ellos as long as with our other family members, but part of the Dia de los Muertos tradition is that we honor any life, right? Whether it be human, or in this case, we, you know, angelitos, or also our pets, which is, that one is October the 27th. And then angelitos, I believe, is November the 1st. And then November the 2nd is the official Dia de los Muertos Day.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you said, to honor the angelitos too, because they were a part of our lives, and in a way, and like you said, even though we didn't spend a lot of time with them, they still they leave an impact on us as well. And like you said, it's important to remember all life. And this year too, we recently lost our family dog, Baloo. It was a German Shepherd, and this year I actually laid out some treats for him. It was his first Dia de los Muertos, and just remembering, because he was a very loyal companion and protected my parents' house, and you know, took his job very seriously, and you know, did also leave a impact in our lives, because he was such a loyal companion to anyone that knew him. Pretty much. I know mi papa Toño used to say too, since kind of we've been talking about all this, that like los perros van a ser las guías en el río Jordán o algo así.
Sí, mi papá Toño decía que los perros nos iban a ayudar a cruzar el río Jordán. And I didn't know what that meant. And just recently I saw a video clip on Facebook. They made a cortometraje. It's a smaller, kind of few minutes long, of kind of like the story, the belief that our ancestors had, that los cholos, because that's those are like the earlier dogs that our ancestors had. They would be guardians of the afterworld, and in that short clip we learn, or I learned and you learned because you saw it too. We learned together that that they were the guardians. So when we cross over, when it's our turn, if we had any dogs, any pets, they're gonna be the ones to help us, meet us there. Why? Because dogs don't have a big lifespan, so sometimes they go before us, right? And so they are the welcoming, and they help us cross a river, right? Mi papá Toño le llamaba el Río Jordán, but obviously in our ancestors' world, it wasn't the Río Jordán. It was another river there. I don't know what the name is, but the river. And then they help you get to your loved ones on the other side. And so, whenever we have pets, and we're very respectful to them, and I always remember those resounding words that mi papá Toño would say, nos van a ayudar a cruzar el río Jordán. And that just always sticks to me, because they are your guardians here, and why wouldn't they be your guardians somewhere else?
Right. Yeah, I do remember seeing that video, and I was like, it all makes sense, and it was truly beautiful to kind of see. And the video, I think, showed and we can maybe add it to a link or something on the Mija Let Me Tell You page, but it was like once the dog would cross with the human, that it like carried him to his other family members that were waiting for him, who had already passed away. So it was really beautiful to kind of see that. Yeah,
I agree. And those were wise words. Mi Papa Jose would used to say, recordar es vivir. Those were his words, like you mentioned there. And then mi Papa Toño's words would be, el perro que nos van a ayudar a cruzar el río Jordán, amongst others.
Yeah. Their teachings transcend them. They taught us so much, and there's little quotes that we remember them by. Very beautiful. Just a couple of memories we wanted to share about our loved ones, because there is this saying in Mexico, recordar es vivir, right? To remember is to live. And our loved ones live through our memories, even though they're not physically here. But their memories live and surpass them. And it's important to remember them. And like we've mentioned, Dia de los Muertos is a time of just a celebration of their lives and the times we spent with them.
So with that Ana says and shares, we'd like to kind of bring closure to this episode, and we invite anyone who has special memories of special loved ones to continue to share with us in the comments. And Dia de los Muertos is just, Dia de los Muertos is every day. Right? But we just specially do it at a certain time. But you can remember your loved ones any day, of any time, of any day. But this is just very pronounced tradition about Dia de los Muertos. And so if you want to remember or to share some special memory of a loved one with us, you can leave it in the comments. We still continue to open invitation to anyone out there who would like to share your story. I know sometimes we're shy and we're like, oh, my story is not meaningful. I'm like, we can all learn from everyone's story. And so los invitamos, si gustan ser parte de la historia de Mija Let Me Tell You, to let us know. Please share, compartir, suscribirse, subscribe. It doesn't cost any money to subscribe on YouTube. Síganos en las redes sociales. We post once in a while, we post our podcast, but we also have the Fridays we post like a motivation quote, just to, keep us motivated about life. Life is, if anything teaches us about Dia de los Muertos, is that life is worth living, and it's not going to be perfect. We are going to have ups and downs, and we lose loved ones, but we learn so much, and we still continue to learn from them, because even though they passed away, we continue to acknowledge who they were and what their mark in the world was. They taught us, aunque ya se nos adelantaron en el camino, which that's what they say, right? They just like a step forward. We know life is a cycle, and eventually we're going to be the ones going through that process. And so when we say se nos adelantaron en el camino, it's like they're just ahead of us, but we're following their footsteps. So enjoy life as to the fullest. There's ups and downs, but you know, it's so short. Life is just worth living with its ups and downs. Esto fue todo for this episode. This was all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing us share wonderful memories about our loved ones in honor of Dia de los Muertos. And con mucha gratitud, this is Mija. Let me tell you.